Look around, we need hope. Dark world, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope, need hope, need hope. Look around, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope. But tell them it's hope for the broken. 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 Tell them it's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Boy, look around, we need hope.
Welcome to another edition of Healing Broken Souls. I am Benny Powell, pastor of Greater Second Baptist Church here in Marion, Indiana.
And I'm John Boyanowski. I am the pastor at Solid Rock Church of Warren in Warren, Indiana.
As you know, we have developed this series on healing broken souls, and from time to time, we like to remind the audience of why we do this. We do this for those individuals that will not or cannot ask for help, and they need some encouragement to deal with some of these life issues. So one thing that we like to get back to from time to time is understanding the brokenness of a person. How did you put it?
My question is this: is it possible to be too broken to be healed? And the reason why I ask that is because I hear so often, and it's actually mostly women and young ladies who make this statement that I am so broken that I am beyond repair, or why even bother worrying about me because I'm already set in my ways and I'm too broken.
You know, when you use the term broken or possible to be too broken, the first thing that comes to my mind is what emotional state is that person in. You know, it's kind of like, I have this clock in my home, a grandfather clock. Mm-hmm. And at the time, my kids were 12, 14, and maybe 10. And one day, me and my wife came home, and we saw that the door of the clock was open. And so I went over to it. It had the big chimes, the weighted chimes, mm-hmm. and everything, and went to it and opened it up. And there was one of the weight cylinders that had gone through the base of the clock floor. Mm-hmm. And so we put all the kids in, as dutiful parents as we were, very agitated that A, somebody messed with the grandfather clock, and B, they broke it and didn't say anything. So we asked each one who broke the clock, and each one of them said, not me, not me, not me, not me. And so, of course, we never really found out until they got adults who had broken the clock. But the one thing that I never did, and I'm still wondering why didn't I fix that broken floor in the base of the grandfather clock? It still sits in the home in the same spot that it sat in. We took the weight up and hung it back up, but we never fixed that broken floor in the clock. And so
and why is that?
For fear that they might drop another cylinder through.
You got grandkids now, right?
Yeah. I got a grandchild, very active young man. And I said, well, I think that once it was broken, I looked at the clock a different way, because when I was young and we were poor, not poor, I said, when I grow up, I'm gonna get a grandfather clock to put in a home. And so we bought that grandfather clock, and I was prideful of the clock, and the one of the rules was don't touch the clock. Don't mm-hmm. touch the clock. But after it got broken, I didn't look at it the same anymore.
Why is that?
You know what? And now, even if I still think about it, it wasn't the same. It wasn't perfect mm-hmm. anymore. So, I just left it broken.
And see, that's the mindset that we see a lot in today's world. Mm-hmm. They're broken. They feel that nobody wants them. Nobody wants to take the time to invest in them because it's like, what happens should they get broken again? You yourself said the reason why you didn't fix that floor was because it might get broken again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would get broken again. And then you have to look at it from the perspective of the clock. It's not viewed the same anymore, So when people are viewed in a broken state, nobody looks at them like they were before, or that healthy, that vibrant person, And even in their brokenness, if they should get back to a level of normal wellness or close to it, they never tell nobody that they were broken or that they are broken. Mm-hmm. And many people enter into a relationship with known brokenness and never tell anyone that they're broken. And it's not until someone finds out that this is an issue for them. You marry a person that's happy and go lucky, and then when you marry them and you live with them, you find out, this person's got depression, anxiety, anger issues,
low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem. And the brokenness, the list gets bigger and bigger the more you learn about them.
It's sort of like you have your major fractures, but then you have your stress fractures, things that don't show up on the first X-ray or anything. But as you look deeper, you see that, and you see the potential of what could happen.
Yeah. There's a unique pottery skill. I think it comes from Japan.
Yeah, we were going to save that for the end.
Well, I want to talk about it right now.
Okay, well, we'll let you talk about it right now.
Because it's so important.
Well, it is.
Okay. And and see, I just did my baby moment here, y'all. Because I want it now. So
we're covering up the stress fracture.
Stress fracture, absolutely. But what it's called kintsugi. And what kintsugi is taking an item that has been cracked or fractured. It's not totally broken, and then you take a rich mineral like gold or silver or something, and you put it in the cracks of the pottery, and you bring it back together. But what you do, you enrich the pottery, and it becomes more valuable than what it was. Now, to get someone to from a broken state to a better wellness, you have to know how much are they broken and how much more material is going to be needed, or how much resources or work is going to be needed to help this person.
It's going to be especially one that you have to look at time. Are you willing to invest the time in it? Something like what you were just sharing about that pottery is a very intricate and delicate procedure. And you have to have precise measurements, like you were saying. You have to have the amount of the precious minerals or gold or whatever, as well as being able to know what the body of that vase or thing can withstand. Because sometimes if it gets too hot or too much, it doesn't fit right, and then it makes it either more ugly in appearance to some of the people, or it could turn it into complete dust simply because it was too hot and it wasn't cared for properly. It wasn't tempered beforehand.
When you look at redoing or refining something that's broken, the person that's handling that broken material has to be a craftsman.
Yes.
That one of our favorite scripture is, God said, I am the potter, you are the clay, and he is the workman. Okay. And so, even with that, God says, okay, I see that you're broken, but I'm going to fix you, and I think that's, where a lot of people find their brokenness. You say women make the statements more so than men. Men make the statements, they just don't say it. They don't say it.
They say it to themselves, but they wear the mask well.
Yeah, that's just as bad as staying broken.
Yes,
you know,
very much.
so you can break something and repair it, but then when you break something into pieces, that's a whole different thing, And there are a lot of people out there that are in broken pieces. To be to it, to family, environment, relationships, stress on the job, stress interpersonal issues,
Cultural environments.
and demands, addiction, all these things that breaks them.
Even in their faith, sometimes it's a major hurdle to overcome.
And that's one thing, what we have here is, every member is given a deacon. We call it the deacon wellness ministry, and each every 2 weeks or every month, depending on what the person agrees to, they call those members and they do a wellness check on them. Say, hey, how are things going? This is Deacon so and so calling from the church, just checking in and see how you're doing. Because when a person know that you care and that you love them, then after a certain amount of time, they begin to build some trust with whoever that person is.
Right.
And sometimes the pastor is not always available, or the therapist is after hours, or whatever the case may be. Somebody has to have that bond, that fellowship to help them in the brokenness. Now, we do that because that's what we're supposed to do, first and foremost. Secondly, we don't want anyone to slip through the cracks.
Absolutely.
Just like I asked someone yesterday, hey, have you seen Sister So-and-so? Anybody heard from Sister So-and-so? I think that sometimes, as churches grow or, they become too big, people...
Or too busy.
People get lost in the shuffle of things, and then that one person misses.
Well, sometimes they look for churches where they can get lost, because if they can go into a church and get lost and just fit into the backwood, whatever you want to call it, they feel comfortable, because then there's no expectations, and there's also no reason for people to want to get involved with me, because if they did, then they would see my brokenness, and then they would just cast me aside, like maybe some of the past has done for them.
And that's the whole thing, If I know I'm broken, I don't want nobody just to say, okay, we're going to pray for you. Okay?
Right.
Prayer works. Don't get me wrong. I know it works.
Well, sure.
I'm living proof that prayer works. But at the same time, I want you to work with me through my brokenness, and we should be ever vigilant, ever ready to, I don't care if it's a little crack.
Yeah.
One of the best books I ever read was 9 Things Not to Say. I can't remember who the author was, but it's 9 Things Not to Say. We read it when we were in college.
Yep.
And sometimes the best thing to say is to say nothing at all and just listen. People sometimes don't want you to tell them how to fix their brokenness. They want you to listen through their brokenness and then work through it from there. My wife don't want me telling her how to fix things. She just want me to listen sometimes.
Right. And, sometimes when we look at the brokenness, we see some things that we ourselves are afraid of.
What do you mean?
Okay, so let's say somebody comes into your office and you hear their story and you understand that this is going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of commitment. And some people don't want to give that because it takes from all the other people, or it takes from you personally.
Recently, and because of laws and litigation, I can't mention names, but there was a situation, a person called the church, and it was after hours, and the person said, I need to speak to him, and I need to speak to him now. I'm finna lose it. She was calling in a broken state, and my secretary knows pretty much that, about that time I'm driving down the highway and I do not answer my phone. And so she would just normally text, and the text would pop up on the screen. That's bad to read a text and driving too. But what was different was that she called this time, okay, knowing that I don't answer my phone. And I said, well, this got to be something. So, God said, pick up the phone. So I picked up the phone, and she told me what was going on, gave me the person's number. And in her brokenness, she said, I need some help right now. So what do you tell a person? Well, I'm on the highway. I'll get back with you. No, you talk to them. And you stay on the phone with them and on the line with them until they get to a place of safety. I've done that in my private practice. Person say, hey, I'm finna do such and such in my state, and we stay on the line and until they get to a place and say, okay, put somebody on the phone that can verify where you are and that you're safe. And so they get to the ER, but the brokenness doesn't stop once they get to the safe place.
Right.
You have to pick up the phone the next day and say, hey, where are you? How are you doing?
And follow up for a long time after that.
Yeah. One of the big things when people are broken, they want that immediate, quick fix cure, and, whether it's dealing with your brokenness and you're doing it through therapeutic intervention or spiritual interventions, it's not a fast process.
No, and sometimes it's very detailed. Yeah. So have you ever done pottery before?
Reluctantly. Yes, I'm not a potterer.
Okay, so I've done pottery before, and I've enjoyed it. I mean, I love doing it. And, when you go to create something, first of all, just being able to know that you are the one that shaped this into a vase or a cup or a dish or whatever, it's pretty awesome, But sometimes in the midst of it, you mess up and you have to start over again. And then after a while, and you get it to where you want it to be, you got to let it dry. And then after you let it dry, you got to take it to the kiln.
To the what?
Kiln, K-I-L-N.
What's that?
That's where you heat up the clay and it turns into the stoneware. Okay. So then you think, well, you're all done with it. No, you're not. Because then you have to take, and in some cases, you may have to sand a little bit. In most cases, you got to put on a glaze or a color to it and turn it into the artwork that you want. And then you got to reheat it again. And you may go through this process several times before you get it to exactly where you want it. When we're dealing with brokenness, sometimes we got to let the person know, okay, I don't know all the answers, but here's what you can expect. And helping them, not necessarily like you said, they don't want you to fix them. But if you have the ability to share with them what lies ahead possibly, it helps to relieve some of that anxiousness.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, you have to realize that it does take time. I had a man bring his son to me and at work one time, and he said, my son needs some help. So, we took him on and everything. And he had been with us about 2-3 months. And the father came back one time. I bet you it's been 20 years now. And he said, hey, I don't see any change in my son. You've had him for 2.5 months and you've done absolutely nothing with him. And before I could realize what my mouth was saying, I said, well, you had him 16 years. How good of a job have you done? And
oops.
Yeah.
Did that come out?
Yeah, did that come out?
Yeah.
But, parents and people want this immediate fix.
And even the people want that instant fix. We're living in an instant world. We have instant cameras. We have instant gratification. We have drive-throughs. We have social media that takes you to the spot where it's happening instantly.
Yeah. Instead of the father saying, okay, here's what I'm still seeing, what do we have to do now? He's wanting a miracle, and sometimes people issues their trauma or their whatever the issue may be. It takes a little bit longer than a 7 to 8 week session with a therapist to work through. I know that things are getting so fast, but for depending on the need of the person. I still see people 30 to 45 minutes, depending on what they're addressing that day. It's not so quick to get them in and get them out. And I know medical billing and all those types of things, saying that we're only paying for so much services and all things like that. But sometimes you have to chalk up the cost and think about the wellness of the person. So the person's broken, but then if you kick them out after a 30-minute session, then they become from broken to broken pieces. So it goes back to the question you asked: can a person be broken or
too broken?
Or too broken? And the answer to both of those is yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I can give you an example. When I was working with this one young lady, she was so broken by so many different things. She had zero trust in anybody. And so she was instructed that she had to attend this one group that I was in, MRT. And so I'd always told all of my kids there, I said, anytime you need me, I will be there. And this girl would make the therapist cry when they knew that she was coming in for a session. She was that broken.
And you have to be very mindful when you see some people, not to change what you're saying, but when you see some people that are not doing well in groups, take them out. Don't try to do that. They'll get fined later. Don't take them out.
Oh no, exactly. And so this one particular night, it was way after hours, like you said before. The stepfather calls and says, so-and-so wants to speak with you. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's talk. Well, long story short was she was going through some major stuff. And without giving any details out, she said, I need to speak to John. And they were like, oh, no, he doesn't want to talk to you. It's after hours, and he's only getting paid to do this. She says, no. He said, I can call. And we talked for over an hour.
Yeah.
And later on, she told me, this was years later, she goes, you really don't know and understand what that night did for me, because I was ready to take it out.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. Okay. It's, brokenness don't come when it's convenient.
Right.
Okay. Brokenness doesn't show up when we have a schedule,
or when we can expect it,
or when you go home. You can't tell your son and your daughter, you know what, you'll be okay in the morning. Okay. We'll deal with that in the morning. The parenting 101, when a child comes to you and says they need to talk to you, sit down and talk to your child,
And like you said before, listen first, and try not to formulate what you're going to respond to. Just hear them.
And I've said this on this podcast several times, and stay off of Google trying to self-diagnose yourself.
Right.
I have, caveat. If this sounds familiar, we're not talking about you. Okay. So don't be trying to come sue me and saying that you told my story, okay? Okay. So, but, the thing is, everybody has a similar song.
Yeah.
In some shape, form, or fashion. And the thing, too, is how do you meet that need at that time? Do you just say, no, I'll talk to you when it's more convenient? Or do you say, no, this person is worth it. I don't want to see them die.
Right.
I don't want to see them live any worse than what they're already doing.
I don't want to see them broken.
Yeah. And so, that's why we're talking about brokenness right now, and, and why we continue to do this podcast, and why we continue to encourage everyone that if you find yourself in a state of brokenness, seek help, seek someone to talk to, seek the emergency room. If it's severe, go to the ER, tell them what's going on.
One of the things that you have to remember when you do this, folks, is to make yourself vulnerable. I know personally from being broken so many times before that I once decided not to love anyone and not to let anybody get close to me. And in order for me to heal, I had to allow myself the vulnerability to be willing to accept the possibility of further brokenness before I could get healed.
All right. And, and so what we're looking at that everybody's broken. Everybody has some brokenness, no matter what their healthy picture look like. There are always some things that people can work on to feel better and do better and be better. So just remember, your brokenness does not mean that you're no good, that there is something that can fill your cracks in life and make you better.
And you may feel that you are completely shattered and shards are all over the place. But remember this one thing, especially when it comes to God, that whatever is broken can always be put back together.
All right, this is another episode of Healing Broken Souls. I'm Benny Powell, pastor of Greatest Second Baptist Church, Marion, Indiana.
And I'm John Boyanowski, pastor of Solid Rock Church of Warren in Warren, Indiana.
God bless you.
Look around, we need hope. Dark world, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope, need hope, need hope. Look around, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope. But tell them it's hope for the broken. 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 Tell them it's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Boy, look around, we need hope. No question about it, can't get around the whole world.